Kia ora, welcome back, everybody. Who are we missing? Where's my run sheet? Is that my one?
Yeah.
Oh, how did I end up over there? Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, item 2.2. Dean, do you mind if we swap them around? And we go to the arts and creative industries strategy?
Yep, no, that's fine.
And then because I'm mindful that we've got Fiona there, we do that first, and then the district events fund, and then the play and active recreation. Are we okay with that? No objections? All right, we'll do it. Councillor Revel, did you want to raise something before we start?
Yes, look, on reflection and consultation with a number of fellow councillors, I don't believe that I am dealing with a conflict of interest.
Oh, sorry, Fiona, you'll need Thank you. All right, so what we'd like to suggest then is that comes back to the table in terms of revisiting the conflict of interest item on item 1.5. Can we do that?
Yep, I've already removed it.
Okay, thank you. Done.
I'll take that.
Feeling redundant here, but that's okay. Thank you, Councillor Revel, much appreciated. All right, so we'll go to item 2.3, Coromandel Arts and Creative Industries Strategy, and ask Dean to give us an update, please.
Good morning, Council. Just to acknowledge that we do have Fiona Cameron in the room from the Trust who spoke to you this morning. So the purpose of this report is to recommend Council adopt the updated Coromandel Arts and Creative Industry Strategy. So the original strategy was signed off in the 2016 year. Around the same time, an advisory group, which became the Trust, was established to implement the aims of the strategy. The Trust has reviewed the strategy in the last half of 2023, and a final draft was presented to Council just around Christmas 23. Most recently, the Trust did come to the Sustainability and Resilience Committee on the 8th of August and gained some final feedback there. And so it's recommended that the updated strategy is adopted by Council. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dean. So the recommendation is, if I can get to the right page on here. Thank you. Do we have any questions of Dean, please? Peter, Delly, Terry, Martin, John. Ari's writing as fast as she can. Rika. Okay, shoot.
Thanks. So Dean, looking at point 6 in your report about the financial considerations, there are no financial considerations or ratepayer costs associated with adopting this updated plan. I just find it perhaps unusual or perplexing as to how we as a council are supposed to give expression to a strategy without allocating funds to put legs on it, and therefore it therefore just sit as a bit of paper on the shelf. So I'd just like some clarification around that, please.
Yep, happy to answer that. So the strategy itself, which has been updated, there'll be no cost to Council for us to do the administrative side of placing it on our website and sharing it. That is already just some minor in-house issues. Giving effect to the various parts of the strategy, that is incumbent on the Trust to do that. There are mechanisms for council to support the trust, such as the district partnership grants, also the district grants, that type of stuff. And so it would be through looking at those implementation actions that we would be supporting. But in terms of just the strategy being adopted, there's no cost for us there apart from just the admin of doing it.
And just clarifying that the responsibility for executing it sits with the Coromandel Arts Trust. Yep.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool.
Delhi, please.
I was just going to move the resolution, actually, but it appears that there are other comments or questions before I do that.
You're happy to hold that and be, all right, thank you. Terry.
Yes, and I was happy to second that if it comes around too. So, yeah, I just want to say quickly to the board, to the council, that there's a lot. I'm actually on this trust, so I'm just talking for other trusts. The work that goes behind the scenes to prepare these strategies and go through to meet the requirements of them is not just a 5-minute job. There's a lot of work goes into this to get this information correctly and put it out there to show what they're doing and how they're doing it and the benefits they're bringing from it. So I just like to thank the trust for the work put into there, but also to hope council endorses this and endorses the Coromandel's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Martin?
Yes, I was also interested in Councillor Revell's question, and I wonder if there's the opportunity in that strategy to have something along the lines of a reporting to a council committee on a reasonably regular basis. I feel that sometimes, yeah, we put policies and strategies in place and then they sit on a shelf and 3 years later we go, it would have been really good to review those not review, but look and see, get some updates from the Creative Coromandel about them. So, yeah, is that a possibility to?
Yep, through the chair, that's something that we've already taken into consideration in terms of the partnership agreement that we have with the trust and also some of the other district grant recipients. They are required to come to each of the community boards and give an update on an annual basis, and also the sustainability and resilience committee. So that would be the forum to be able to look at the overall strategy, how it's going, ask those sort of questions, and basically hear from Fiona and the team.
Thank you, Martin. John Grant, please.
I would like to speak in support of this. I feel very passionate about our responsibility around this table to the arts in the Coromandel. I feel that there, like Councillor Revell, that we need to see some further commitment within the way that this is structured to show our support from a financial perspective behind this this organisation. And I think, you know, following up on what Councillor Rodley has just said, we need to look at some sort of structure and way that it sits within an area where there is a closer tie-in to what takes place, so that things can be brought back to council. And I will also be speaking to this under the events fund discussion that is coming up a little later on. So I just wanted to see those thoughts that I personally see this as being a very core area of council activity, and one that we need to seriously look at how we actually give some legs to the implementation of the things that need to be done.
Thank you, John. Rika.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading the strategy. Thanks, We talk about, it talks about being updated and reviewed every 6 years, and I just wondered whether, I don't know, whether there's a process to look at this alongside sort of our own annual plan. I just sort of want to see how we can fit closer together and, just echo the comments of the others that have spoken before me, so that, it's not a strategy that just sits on a shelf, but it's actually something that has some room and some legs within this space.
Did you want to respond, Dean?
Yep, certainly. It's probably a theme with not just Creative Coromandel, but a number of our district grant recipients that we would like to have a real clear focus on the action tables and what implementing each of those actions looks like, with a view to informing annual plans and LTPs. So we can certainly have those conversations with them when we catch up with them regularly, as well as when they come to the board and they come to the committee. But we can look to focus in on that.
Thanks, Dean. Any, John?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, put a little bit more towards what I said before, that the challenge that we have at the moment, is to make sure that we financially provide to ratepayers the best we can do in regard to the funds that we have to be able to manage all of the things that council needs to deliver. And there is very little set aside in the LTP outside of our core activities. And I think the challenge that we have as a council is, rather than spreading crumbs around the place, we need to really make some hard decisions about things that are really critically important, and make sure that they are seeded in a way that they can actually execute and do things. So I just wanted to clarify that point. I'm not promoting the concept that we just go out and spend willy-nilly around the place, but I think there are areas that really do need to be supported. So hopefully that clarifies things a little bit more.
Thank you, John. I'm mindful, as I'm sitting here, that we've got Fiona sitting over there in the public gallery as the chair of Creative Coromandel. Fiona works on a voluntary basis with a very, very small team in behind her. And if you look at the strategy here, we have 5 goals, and it's a good strategy. There's some amazing things in here, 46 objectives. There's a massive body of work in here that is delivered by Fiona and a very, very small team of volunteers. So I think that needs to be acknowledged and congratulated. And I'm really heartened to hear the sentiments around the table, and I was really encouraged by the number of artists and business and events that have signed up for the Art Beat, and every one of those is a small business. So there is a very strong focus, I know, in the economic benefits that can be delivered from this strategy. So well done, Fiona. I think there's some good work gone in there. So very encouraging. So, we have Delhi.
Can I move that resolution? Because I actually feel like we might be getting into the discussion on the next item with our passionate kōrero, and all we need to do is actually accept this strategy.
Yeah. So you're happy to move it? We've got Terry second it. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Terry, thank you. Well done. So we'll go straight to the District Events Fund 2.4. I'm personally happy if you sit in the public gallery. Thank you. And I've had advice to that effect as well. So so long as you are not participating in the decision-making process, that's okay.
Don't go too hard, eh?
So we've got item 2.4, and I'm just going to flag right at the start that I am going to be proposing an amendment to this. And I've had a chat with Ari about the wording of the amendment, and it's to do with the proposed amounts. Staff have come back with some recommendations, and I'll need some, for my own benefit, some guidance from staff as to where we sit on those and whether the proposed amendments are fit within the criteria. So do you want to bring up the amendment at the first of all, so that the rest of the team can see? Yes, please. Thank you. Are we able to do that on the screen? All right, thank you. So we'll do that first, and then I'll ask Mitch and Kirsten to give us some background and let us know where we are. So this is the proposal. We've got in our LTP, we've signed off on 66,625 as the 2024-25 budget in the LTP. The amendment would allow for increases in those allocations and would leave a balance in the fund of 10,000 for the rest of the financial year. Mitch, is there anything, and Kirsten, is there anything that you want to add to this before we go to questions?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'll make a couple of comments and then Kirsten might add to them. So the main purpose for preparing the fund in 2 tranches was that it was only open for quite a short window to be able to have the decision come to council ahead of summer. And we feel that by allocating a greater proportion of the fund, we're disadvantaging other applicants who just might not be prepared to apply. And we had already communicated to them that the fund would be managed in this way. So there's that element to it. And we also want to keep some money in the kitty to attract new events to the Coromandel. So the original purpose of the fund is an economic development fund, and we want to be able to have some money available to attract events that will bring people to the Coromandel, because as you'll note, only one of the events really meets that major event threshold. And so it's been quite a few challenging years, and that's why keeping some money provides for some flexibility in the later part of the financial calendar.
Thank you. So I'm quite open to amendments on this and discussion around what the appropriate amounts might be. And I'm interested to hear from other councillors. So I've got Reka.
Then John, then Delhi.
Thank you. John Grant and then Delhi.
Robin, Gary.
Thank you. All right, Reka, go for it.
Thank you. Hi. I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about BlackRock XC 2025. In your report, you talk about trying to attract events that have 2,000 visitor days. And then when I go into the event details that you've got here, talks about sort of expected numbers being very, very low. And I just would like to understand why that then makes the cut to be receiving of significant funds.
Yeah, again, I'll speak to it, Kirsten will add, but the event is in its early days, and so it's building. It is aligned with a whole program of work around trying to build the Coromandel as a destination for that type of activity. And so the bike park at Whangamata is building its reputation. And so supporting that event with a small amount of money was seen as a good long-term opportunity. They did have over 200 participants, more than they expected in the most recent event. And the team are in discussions with them around how they can support them to build the numbers even further. But also a mountain bike visitor will spend more than somebody attending another type of event. Generally, that they are tourists. There are a number of local participants in the event, but it does attract genuine tourists as opposed to people who are returning to a batch or attending a community event.
So if I may ask another question, if you are an event that has been supported in this fund in the past, there's nothing to stop you coming back year after year, or do we have a sort of sinking lid or, maximum time frame?
So this will be coming through to council with the grants policy update. So that's not actually happening to next year. So historically, staff had the mandate to allocate these. It was operational to allocate this fund. But the feedback from the workshops that Rose had around her grants policy was that council would like to have an input, which is why we've restructured that part of our work. So in early next year, there will be an input from council as to exactly how they'd like this fund to run going forward.
And I guess also just to when there's an operational budget, is highly flexible and can be responsive to the needs of different groups at different times, but locking it into 2 or 1 funding round really constrains what you can achieve with that over a year.
Yeah, I certainly support the idea of having two rounds of the grant being open for applicants. Thank you.
Thank you. John Grant, please.
I'm really struggling with this, to be honest. There's very little money in the pot, and yet we're dicing it up, one for a commercial organisation who is set out to make a profit from what they do. And I appreciate all of the issues around competing areas and those type of things. It's been away and has been run somewhere else and is coming back, and we've invested or are very heavily in developing areas for this to take place. BlackRock, I am sorry, I just really struggle with allocating this amount of money when there are so many competing things taking place here to a group that has a couple of hundred people participating. Just makes absolutely no sense to me. Matariki, while I support the concepts of what it is all about, why should Whangamata Matariki get one of these when all the other areas around the place miss out? And the only one that I see on here that rings a chord is the last one with me. So I am, and I'm also would have to table, here we are at a council meeting, we've had papers circulated a week earlier, and you present a change on the day that we're having sitting for council meeting without the opportunity of being able to ask the questions beforehand. So I double up on my disappointments by saying, that I don't believe that is fair on us as councillors to be presented something like this amendment as we are about to pass a motion to support something. So
to be clear, councillor, that amendment came from me. It didn't come from staff.
Yeah,
so
well, I think
again,
the correct process, Mr. Mayor, is that you put forward the original motion to see if that succeeds, and if that fails, or you can move an amendment to that motion. But I'm just really bitterly disappointed. I think that this does not echo to me the sentiments of how the very small amount of funds that we have should be allocated, and I will not be supporting it.
So what we've got in front of us is a resolution with applications from these groups with the numbers that they applied for in the staff recommendations. I've simply proposed amendments to those numbers based on the guidance or the budget that we've got in the LTP. Councillors are very welcome to come back and propose alternative numbers, and I'm hearing discussion around the table. That's absolutely fine. But we're working off the applications that we've got in front of us. And I think there were only 5 in total. There was one that didn't meet any criteria. Was it 7? Sorry, 7.
Could we go through them one by one?
Let's do the questions and the comments first. Thank you, Delly.
Yeah, I endorse some of John's sentiment, and following on from Rekka's question, we have this opportunity to look at the funding going forward. For example, Matariki Whangamata, I support that because they got off their bums and they've put something together, and the rest of the peninsula, or particularly Mercury Bay, I'll own this one, are whinging because they haven't got off their bums to organise an event and apply for some funds. So in the future, a decision may be around $5,000 seed funding per ward to have a Matariki event, but we've got this in front of us now. So I support the amounts staying as they were, with the exception of the Coromandel Art Beat, because we've heard compelling kōrero around being able to do some very meaningful mahi in the district. That would have some outcomes that we're looking for. I'm personally uncomfortable with the summer concert 10,000, but I'm happy for those other amounts to stay as they are, and then have a really good look at this whole policy and what we're doing. But we've also heard from Mitch that it's important to have some money left in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
So trying not to spend it all, but increasing the Coromandel Art Beat by 10,000 would be good.
Thank you. Robin, please.
And Councillor Grant, I agree with your comments wholeheartedly. And the one thing that I think I can add, rather than just oxygen to the room or carbon dioxide, is that the criteria was actually very clear about how many days to, it says grants will be targeted towards events whereby the organiser can demonstrate that the event will attract at least 2,000 visitor days. And my concern is that if we then fund 2 groups that have come to us with really small number of visitor days, we are, yes, they've taken a punt. They've said, yep, this is great. We can go for this. But how many people did we not hear from, and did we not have an opportunity to hear from because they read the criteria and took it seriously? So I would take those guys out. If we've got criteria, we should stick to the criteria, because otherwise, why do we even have criteria? So I would absolutely agree about the Coromandel Art Beat Spring Festival. I'm not overly delirious about the summer concert, but because as Councillor Grant says, they are a commercial venture. And so I'm not going to die in the ditch over it, but I don't think that we should be supporting people who did not meet our criteria for the fairness of other people who didn't apply because they knew they wouldn't meet the criteria. It's just not fair.
Thank you, Robin. Gary?
Yes, as you stated, to the district event funds open for applications 1st of August 2024, closing date 31st of August. So it was a very narrow period. And I gather from my reading, it didn't actually go to the community boards for their consideration. Is that correct?
No.
Because one of the things that I look here under the criteria is contributes to a safe district. The proposal demonstrates a high level of health, safety and risk awareness. And it goes on with other things. But one of the problems that I've observed over the years, and if we talk of health and safety, the problem at Whangamata with heaving with all the kids around the New Year's Eve and all the problems that have happened over the years, nothing is being done there for free concerts. And it just seems to have gone into a void. And I gather that other one in the rugby grounds is not happening now. Is that correct? Not this year. So I can tell you, we're going to have some problems with Whangamata, big problems. And because we're not putting something on for the young people. And that we have about 100,000 people turn up in Whangamata, and it's pumping. And if you ain't got it there, let me tell you, you've seen all the things that happened in the past. I'm just saying, I'm very disappointed that something hasn't been considered there for that, because the safety and health and safety thing is most important. And the kids have got nothing, and that's why they get all stroppy. My 2 pence.
Thank you, Gary. So as the mover of the amendment, I'm going to, having heard from councillors, I'm going to suggest that I withdraw the Whirianga Summer Concert and take that 14,625, take that back to the 10 as proposed by staff. Black Rock back to 5 as proposed by staff. Matariki Whangamata back to 5 as proposed by staff, and leave the Coromandel Artbeat Spring Festival at the proposed amendment of 25. And thank you for your feedback, everybody. Rika?
Can I make an amendment on your amendment?
Can she?
Yes.
Well, to be fair, there is actual no motion on the table because you didn't get a seconder.
May I make a motion then?
Yes.
May I suggest that we take the $5,000 from BlackRock, which I'm sorry, it doesn't meet our own criteria in terms of visitor numbers, and redirect that $5,000 to the Coromandel Art Beat Spring Festival?
So making that 20?
Yes. Okay. Is anyone going to support that?
Yeah.
So then.
So I didn't actually ask for a seconder on my amendment. Can I ask for a seconder on my amendment?
I think that's sort of lapsed.
What you see there is what I have moved. I'm just looking for a seconder.
I'll second that pro forma. Okay. I'll second it then, Gary, on legal advice. Okay, having seconded that, and that's your motion, am I able to offer an amendment to that motion? Right.
Someone just
I
stop us
would
when we
actually, listening to what's been said, we have a surplus budget, so I'd put Coromandel Artbeat Spring Festival at 25. And that would be my amendment to your motion. Do I have a seconder? We
You're
have
taking more out of the reserve.
out of the reserve, out of the pot.
So that decreases what
Because we
got
don't
in
want to
the
have a
February allocation.
Yes, I totally accept that, but we don't want to have what Councillor Grant said before, a breadcrumbs type approach to this. We want to put some money where there might be some bang. So the 5,000 that I propose we increase the 20 to 25 comes out of the events fund reserve that we have not spent.
Yes, so I don't consent to that because I'd like that February fund
I don't
to
consent
be. I would like that February allocation to be a reasonable, so that we're not just left with crumbs in February. I feel like we should.
I'll withdraw my amendment.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder in you, Gary? All right.
Councillor Gary Percival?
You sure can.
I'm curious as to why of the two events that don't meet our own criteria, one focused predominantly on locals that doesn't meet the number of 2,000 visitors, the other which will attract people from outside the district and also doesn't meet the 2,000 visitor days, why you've selected to keep the BlackRock take the BlackRock out, but keep Matariki Whangamata in, because both of those don't meet the criteria. So now we're even being inconsistent with our inconsistencies, which doesn't feel right to me. We should be consistent.
Okay, so what would you recommend?
I would have been very happy to second you had you taken out both events that didn't meet the criteria.
So you're suggesting that if we take out Matariki and Whangamata.
Correct. Yes. Then put Coromandel Artbeat up to 25, because around the table, it felt like we all agreed with that. And then the money in the pot,
Stays the same.
we satisfy your wish to have the money in the pot the same in
criteria.
February, which I absolutely agree with, because we're robbing our left pocket to put it in our right in that case. And I'd be really happy with that.
So Gary, you're happy with that? Sorry, Len, I'll just do your job.
I'm listening to councillors. Have you not got it in front of you, Gary?
No, I don't.
I'm wondering if we need to go through these one by one, line by line.
Sorry. Robin's going to potentially be the third seconder of my motion.
But Gary, Councillor Gottlieb has indicated that he is not happy to change the amendments that we've just discussed. And I have indicated that I'd be very happy to second Councillor Gary Percival's table and proposed funding as in the table on the screens. Somebody's put my name there, so
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it's
no,
okay.
we're-
The line on this.
Could I also make a suggestion? That we briefly hear
Okay.
from Mitch, just a suggestion that we hear from Mitch in regard to the Whitianga Summer Concert and any other comments he'd like to make about Black Rock or Matariki, because I think you were trying to make those before and they were held over. So I think that
Mitch,
should be good.
I'm going to defer to Kirsten on the summer concert question.
Just in relation to the summer concert, that event has historically been funded by council for their buses since day one. I think we perhaps have set a form of precedent with the event organisers that council pay for the buses for this event. And it's a safety kind of issue, getting people from Cook's Beach, for example, to the venue. When staff and the panel had the discussions around this, we talked about giving them some funding towards the buses this year and perhaps making it clear to them that this is the last year that we'd be able to use this fund to pay for the buses, that going forward they would either need to speak to the Mercury Bay Community Board to see if there was an appetite to have the community funding those, or if we had, if they were could look at arranging a pay as you go type service, asking people to pay. So putting it down to $10,000 was to cover the fact that it is a safety issue. It is a precedent that has been set, and longer term, they need to look at other ways to fund that service.
In previous years, council, my understanding is that council actually contracted the bus service itself. And so council directly contracted that bus activity. So the funding didn't go via the event organizer.
Yep. So I understand that, and I understand the overall commercial benefits that there are to the area. And I take it that you're sort of signalling that this will be the last round of this funding.
That's what we would intend to say to the organisers. Here is a contribution towards the buses. I mean, in the past, we've put on buses that have gone right around the town. I think we've had 6 or 8 buses on the go all at once. This year, we're just suggesting that it's going to be from the information centre to this venue and back for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon to get people safely from the state highway area back into the town. And we would signal to them that this is what we're going to contribute, and it would be the last year that we would be able to use this fund for that activity.
I'm just getting, sorry, you carry on. I'm
Well,
just getting some guidance from Ari on this.
No, I was just going to say, if you've finished with the Whitianga Summer Concert, it would be good to hear any comments that you have on the other 2 before we vote on this.
Yes.
Maybe a relevant comment to that discussion, that perhaps rather than it being the district event fund, I think it's a good idea it comes back to Mercury Bay Community Board, and perhaps it's a discretionary thing that we discuss as a public safety thing in our own town. So I'm quite happy with the plan that you've got going forward for that.
I'm just getting some guidance from Ari on procedure, but I have to say I'm not thrilled about the Matariki coming out completely and Whirianga Summer Concert staying at 10. That's a paid event. We've heard the reasons, the background to that, and that's great. But for Matariki, how many did Matariki get? I think it was about 1,200 or so, didn't they? 1,400, right? So it's become, you know, a fairly significant event for Whangamata. For them to apply for 10 and we put a line through and give them nothing, I'm not comfortable with that.
Excuse me, I think the report says 450.
So for page 98, there's a table in attachment B. Matariki.
Yeah, I scratched my head at that because the numbers that I was given following the last Matariki were different from that.
May I?
I think I guess want to return to the original purpose of the fund, which was an economic development fund. And so the criteria was softened actually this time round to include community outcomes as part of the objectives. But that is why it was really to drive visitation. And I guess the opportunity to take a harder look at the purpose of this small bucket of money will be as part of that review of the grants. But that was the rationale for not, in the first instance, not fully funding the $10,000 was that there's a perception that that event would be mostly for local people or returning property owners and attract fewer tourists as a tourist attraction or an economic development activity.
Ari, what are we going to Sorry. Robin, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you said to wait. The other thing I'm aware of with these two events is that the evidence that we have for the Black Rock in front of us is not feeling all that great, and the same for the Matariki. But what I'm hearing is that, you know, the number might be 450, 450 people, the number might be 1,400. Oh no, it's fine. I think it would be great from my own mental health to sort this out quickly and move on, so we're not here until I'm 100. But what it would be, I think the message to take away from this is that this is the first round of 2 rounds of funding, and that both of those events are due to take place in the latter half of next year. So if they wanted to reapply, they easily could and provide us with more information or a better plan or a more compelling case. Yeah. Thank you.
That's a good point. Is that right in terms of timing? They could reapply in the second round? So that applies to Black Rock and Matariki, but not the other two, obviously. All right. So that makes a difference. Good point. Thank you.
Well, it would apply to the.
Can I just pick up on your comment, Mitch, which I found helpful, but probably conflicting with my understanding of what this major event thing was. That in fact it has always been an economic development, the idea of attracting people here for economic reasons, the fact that you have, or it's kind of morphed or added or scope creeped to include community outcomes and so on. I think I think I'd like to support what this is, and then when it comes back in February, for it to be really clear that this is a fund for economic development to attract people to the district, and we're not trying to morph it into something different.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that we've got the amended motion in front of us. The mover for that was Reka. We've got a seconder in Robin. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, thank you. That's carried. Well done, team. And sorry if it got a bit muddled up, and apologies, Councillor Grant. That could have come earlier, but I was thinking it through and getting my own head in the right space. So I appreciate your patience on that.
It'll be good to get a seconder straight away.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't.
That we received it.
You okay with that? Or do we need to go back to that receiving?
No.
Do you want to do it for safety?
When we did our motion just up there, was it received? We included that, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm. Can I just from a procedural point of view, team, there were two parts to the resolution there, the receiving and the funding. Can I just ask that the mover and the seconder are comfortable to include receiving the report as well? You're okay with that? Thank you. That just clears it up from a procedural point of view. Thank you. All righty. We don't need to put that to the vote again though, do we? Okay. That's fine. All right. Thank you. Sport and recreation. Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Mayor Lynn and Council. So on page 83 of your agenda pack is the report for the Play, Active, Recreation and Sport Plan for the TCDC area. And so this again was presented to a workshop of the Sustainability and Community Resilience Committee in August by Rob Corkhill and Steve Dalgety, who are both apologies from the public forum today. The plan sets out future direction for investment and focus in the TCDC area. The plan was originally adopted in 2020 and in 2023, Sport Waikato undertook a review process which included surveys, data analysis of trends, looking at those active recreation trends and the demographics. The review also involved TCDC staff members at several points. And so the PARS plan has been updated with that current information and community feedback. So similar to the report that you heard before, we're asking that the plan is adopted. The administration steps would be the same, that our website would be updated at very little cost. We would then distribute that plan to the sport and active rec users in the district, and it would be available for staff to use in that area. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Terry. John's got a question or wants to talk to that. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I understand that we're being asked to adopt this plan. Its genesis comes from a 2019 decision by council to ask Sport Waikato to develop a district-wide sport and active recreation plan. And, you know, I am the first one to say that I support anything that's going to get people active. So that resonates with me. And I find a few things just a little bit confusing in reading this. There's no reference to some key sports within it. You know, for example, rugby, netball are not mentioned, and they are probably the two main sports that would be played in the area. Yet football rates extremely highly. So I described it when I read it as being a fluffy wish list, you know, because it isn't actually a plan to activate things, to do anything. It's just a whole lot of words. And so I'm not in support of it. I would actually like to see it go back to staff and be redone into what this council needs to do to actually engage in a plan that is going to activate people to help them get out and do some recreation and active sports, rather than just a whole lot of words on something that will be put away on the shelf for another period of time. So that's my position with it. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way in reading it.
Dean, did you want to comment on that?
Yep, through the chair. In a similar way to the last item, in terms of our partnership with Sport Waikato, one of the things that we are doing is getting them to come to each of the boards, come to the SARC committee more regularly, but also as part of their funding agreement, we've locked in regular 6 monthly meetings with them to look at the progress against the action table. It could, that opportunity could be used to strengthen what some of the actions are. But yeah, I didn't expect the question, councillor. From the feedback that we've had to date, the action table does contain the things that our staff and Sport Waikato would like to see to move us forward.
Can I just, before we come to the rest of the questions, throw a little bit of insight? I had Matthew Cooper reached out to me, and I had a coffee with him the other day. We talked about this, not in any great detail, but I clearly identified with Matthew some of the challenges that we're facing, and the two key ones, it's certainly in this area with the Rhodes Park and the pool funding going forward. He indicated that he's very keen to see what support Sport Waikato can give to council in terms of being able to access funding outside of ratepayers, which I'm sure would be good news, to try and identify what support that they can give, or what funding pathways can be opened up. And so there's an active willingness to work with us to try and solve some of these, or achieve some of the objectives and solve some of the problems. So maybe it's a matter, Councillor Grant, of just more discussion and outlining some of your concerns and focusing in on some of those areas that you feel need to be more attention paid to them. So Terry, and then I've got Rebecca,
Yeah.
and then Peter.
So thank you, Dean. I just want to just help maybe Councillor John Grant with his concerns. A lot of these programs are put through the schools, and the move away from rugby and those contact sports into more individual sports like surfing and skateboarding and things like that has become more preeminent over the last few years. And you'll find that soccer is a big player now in the schools as opposed to the other contact sports. And I think this was an idea to identify those who are more into the individual sports and the smaller groups that are coming through and doing a lot more of that individual sport rather than group sports. So the school works pretty actively with this. I know it's a few words, the new words, PARS, planned, etc., but it's really, I reckon, the encapsulation of as the society moves into different activities. I know the school's got a local surf school going there. They have skateboard lessons and things like that. So this is just a new approach to as the dynamics of the change in the community. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thanks, Terry. Rebecca, please.
Yeah, perhaps not to the extent of John's comments, but overall I felt a little bit, this just didn't really land for me. Lots and lots of words. I didn't feel like I could take this away and have conversations about sport within the district. And I found some of the stats quite old that they used to put this together. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like we do need to have another look at this, or it just doesn't really land in terms of a plan and moving forward for me.
Rika, Peter?
Yeah, thanks. I see this differently to the one that we've just looked at before, because when we discussed the financial things, it was very clear that the execution of the strategy for arts and creative industries sits with the trust. And we've worked together with them to develop a strategy, and executing it sits there. My sense is, or my fear or concern here, is that putting legs on this sits with us as council. And when I go through the recommendations, I sit there and look, okay, well, there's, recommendation 1, promote, undertake a stock take, explore different ways, and I sit there and I think, what resource is this going to require of us as a council to put legs on this strategy? And as you go through the many, many recommendations, that if we adopt this, there is implicit an obligation of staff to give expression to the strategy, and therefore they will, in their planning, staff planning, will need to say, okay, well, what am I going to be doing about seeking community feedback on play spaces, right? And that to me just sounds like there's going to be a cost associated with that. So we're potentially signing up for a strategy that is going to have costs associated with it, which we do not know. And I think that's really dangerous, to the point that I just wonder whether we should be completely parking the whole idea of having a strategy like this, kick the can down the road until we're in flusher times, or times when we are less resource constrained as a council, both from capacity and from financial thing. So there is not an implicit obligation for staff to put legs on the strategy. I think we'd be doing well to be putting legs on all the other things, all the other policies we've already got in place and strategies and so on, rather than picking up on this one to put effort into. So I will not be supporting the motion on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Daly, please.
Hear what my colleagues are saying, and I think one of the problems is, I think this is at least the second thing that has been through the presentation. I'm just looking at the chair. There has been a compelling presentation to the Sustainability and Community Resilience Subcommittee, where more depth and detail around this has been given, and then the expectation is, because you put your trust in a committee, that it then comes to the council table and it's just ratified or adopted, with questions, of course. So I'm not denying that your concerns are valid. Maybe the problem is in terms of how fluffy it is, and it has been prepared in conjunction with Sport Waikato, and I have the highest regard for Mr. Corporal et al. And some of the excellent mahi that they've done. Perhaps that action plan needs to be developed where we give support to organisations, or perhaps discretionary funds or event funds. We talk to our sporting organisations and say, can we have some money, that we can contribute to a have a go day? So rather than us driving a sports strategy, which I don't know is completely our knitting, that there are, hey, this is wonderful. These are the aspirations of these sporting organisations. Sport Waikato are the experts. Their presentation was fantastic. What are our actions as a cost and time restricted council to support the aspirations of these sporting groups? Can we put a little bit of seed money into a have a go day in each of the wards, for example? But is it our job to be driving active play and recreation. I don't know if I said that.
John.
I'd just like to respond to that, and I accept a lot of the comments. What it raises with me is the if the committee has previously had a representation on this, then I would have expected this to come with the endorsement or support of that committee, which would have then given it quite a different perspective from my point of view, because I would have then seen your considerations that would have been taken into account, and it would have probably saved the time of the need to revisit a lot of these things. So it just seems to me a missing link here between, things that are going through the Resilience and Sustainability Committee and coming back to council and not having the weight of the work that has already been done incorporated into the presentation.
So I'd just like to comment on that, because I think it's a very good point, and I think it's perhaps looking to Ari as our expert from a procedural point of view. The committee sort of exists in its own bubble to a great extent, and this is the second time that I can think of, and there might have been more, where the council as a whole has said, but we don't know very much about this, or how come that went through the committee. So is there an opportunity? There are meeting minutes which are available to people, but when a report comes like this to council, what I'm hearing, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, is perhaps some of the key points that were discussed at the committee level are also added into that report, not necessarily with a recommendation, but perhaps with some of the thoughts or discussion that happens, so that the councillors who are very busy with their 400-page order paper can see within that paper, these were the concerns the committee held, or these were the things that the committee thought were positive. And I'm looking at Robin, because I don't want to gazump you as chair of that committee.
I'm slightly concerned that we've drifted off the sport and recreation strategy discussion into a wider role of committee discussion. So I'm uncomfortable with that. I think it's a discussion that we probably need to have, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to have that now. I think we need to get back to this document specifically. So we've had some discussion. Martin, did you want to have a comment on this? And then I think we've got a mover, and we need to put this put the motion on this strategy as it is now.
Yes, if I hear what people are saying about there seems to be a less emphasis on sport, but the Sport Waikato in their the feedback that they've obtained are saying that less and less people are involved, particularly youth, are involved in a team type sport, and a huge amount of this plan is around active recreation, which doesn't involve necessarily being in teams, but it's getting people old and young. And the option 2, if we don't adopt it, basically the disadvantage there says doesn't reflect the changing needs of the community through recent feedback, and doesn't consider changing district demographics. So I say we leave it to the people who know and are actively involved in sport and active recreation play across our district to suggest a way forward. So I'm happy to support this plan.
Thank you. So, Deli, last one, and I think we'll move on. Thank you.
Oh, I'm still red. I'm just wondering if there is an adopt the plan with a proposed discussion at a later date of what actions will come out of that plan. Because I agree with John about the fluff, but what does it actually look like in our lane? What is our lane as governors with this plan?
I think you've touched on a key thing that I'm struggling with, and probably a number of councillors. What is our role in, and that's why we have Sport Waikato. we have a significant role in parks and reserves and the amenities that are used for this, but where's the crossover? And I think it's very easy to get bogged down in that grey, and that's where it feels like we are at the moment. Reka, please.
So I think where some of the unease is if you look at the item 6, the action plan, there's 3 pages of items, some of which are attributed to us. And, you know, it's talking about play trailers, you know, playgrounds, all sorts of different things, which are great. But we actually, if we matched this up with our LTP, these things are not going to correlate. So where do we sit? We have adopted a plan with a whole lot of actions that will fall out of it. Business cases around sub-regional aquatic facilities, encouraging equestrian. There's 3 pages of plans of items, some of which are linked to us in Sport Waikato, some to the community, but we have no way in the next, we've just adopted a 10-year plan. This doesn't sit inside of that. So if we do adopt this, there needs to be another recommendation in there that says how we are going to tailor this in to our day-to-day. And that, I think that is where the unease is.
And it's those crossover areas that I think that are tangling us up. Robin,
I think perhaps
then I'll come back to Dean.
to get to the nub of the issue, it seems like the action plan, which is page 23 of the plan, is the bit that's holding us up, because there's no dialogue. There's a heading, this is action plan, and then there's a whole list of things, whereas previously in the report, they come as recommendations. And so I wonder if that's the tweak, rather than having an action plan that says TCDC will do this, and TC with all that implied finance, which I'm also uncomfortable with, Councillor Rebel. I wonder if we change that to say, you know, we recognise that these are recommendations, and as and when is appropriate, we will do that. So, for example, one of the things says, so 4th row down in the action plan, as it is at the moment, playground renewals. So where playgrounds are highlighted to be renewed, consideration for co-design of engaging age-appropriate play opportunities, including adult play, family-friendly spaces, et cetera, should be included. So that is something that we can all aspire to. It's quite a solid recommendation, but it doesn't have any immediate financial implications. So is that something that would be favourable across the table to say, you know, yes, great plan, maybe a little bit fluffy, lots of words, about twice as long as the arts and recreation, but the action plan is the bit that needs to change, because it's not an action plan, it's a list of recommendations.
Can I ask Dean to comment on that? But that's a good points. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of comments and probably two ways forward to consider. So first of all, just to pick up on, this is a strategy, so it is at the strategy level. And so agree with the action plan maybe being too specific. One option would be that we change that to be, you know, a list of recommendations or recommendations on a page. And then we would use those forums that we talked about earlier to come back to the committee and work with the boards on what the targeted actions will be for a certain period. So that's one way forward. The other point to note is that in the workshop that was held with SARC, there was a lot of background reading and other material that was provided, such as some of the survey results, and the participation in that might have answered some of the questions that the councillors have got and they haven't been able to reference to. I suppose the other option is that it's not time bound. So we could leave it on the table, either go back to SARC and try and refine an action table with our operations team, or look at a workshop with council. I think Sport Waikato would be happy with either. I do know that the other councils in the district have gone through a very exactly the same process, and they have adopted plans that look very, very similar, apart from the branding and images and stuff like that. So this is a consistent way of operating across the Waikato that Sport Waikato have.
Thanks, Dean, as it stands at the moment, we have a mover, we don't have a seconder. I'm going to propose that this stays on the table, that we don't adopt this today. I'm just not sure what the procedure would be for allowing that to happen. That we don't have a seconder at the moment. Terry moved it. Unless we do have a seconder, then we can leave it on the table. You happy to second it? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. We can put the motion.
So just to be clear, this is to receive the report and to adopt the updated strategy.
So we could just receive it and leave the adoption on the table. But you are proposing to receive and adopt? Receive and adopt seconding? Okay. All right, so we have a mover and a seconder for that. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? All right, abstain? Okay, so that stays on the table.
No, that motion is lost. So
Lost, but what do we
so
do with it?
now if you would like it to, we can defer the decision to adopt and request staff to go back to the stability.
Just to propose,
Absolutely.
I would like to move another resolution to adopt the updated Thames-Coromandel Play Active Recreation and Sport Plan 2023 to 2028 with the proviso that the action plan is changed to a recommendation table. No, we haven't. To be fair, I feel like we had a discussion around the table about the action plan being the problem, and so I'm suggesting a way that moves us forward, Councillor Gottlieb, that also incorporates the idea that the action plan is then changed to a recommendation plan, which was something that Dean had said was a suggested way forward. But if I don't get a seconder, I'm what it is.
Can't we just receive and then have a further discussion at a later date?
I was going to suggest that if you were willing to change it to receive and ask staff to review a revised plan that has more specific, actions that are required and timing.
Sold.
Okay,
Okay, I think I picked up the gist of that. So what we're asking is to receive the report, but to also receive the strategy, correct? Is that what we?
receive the report, receive the strategy and leave it there, or use
No,
the
there
wording
was some more further wording. If you can just touch base on that again, please, Councillor Grant.
It probably needs to have a little bit of thought over a break or something, but it's around the need to change the plan to be more specific around what actions are required so that we as council can understand what we're committing to. And
So to review the action plan within the strategy?
yes.
Okay.
You happy with that wording?
Happy with that?
Yes.
I've just noticed one of our GMs has moved to the table and wondered if he had anything to say.
No, I was just going to complicate it because I missed the numbers. So I saw 5 against. I didn't see who was for, because if it was 5-4.
No, there's only 2 for.
No, there was only 2.
2 for.
And they're
5
abstentions.
against. No abstentions.
Yeah,
So
that's my point.
The motion was lost.
No, yeah, that's my
It
point.
was.
Yeah.
So we had a mover and a seconder. From my recollection, it was only the mover and the seconder that voted in favour. Was there more? No, I didn't. To receive and adopt.
Receive and adopt.
Well, let's have the numbers again, please. So mover? Yep. Seconder? Right. Those in favour?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. I did not see those hands. Can we make it up for you next time, please? Okay, thank you. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll vote against it because I'm not comfortable with it. 5, yeah. So it's lost. Thank you. So we are an hour and a half behind schedule here. We'll receive and adopt.
Could I just suggest, rather than take up time now, that we work on something over a break?
Well, we're almost there, John, and my own
Hence
concern
my
with that is,
clarification to the councillors, we're just about there. If you wanted to review that.
and the concern with working through the break is that the staff who are working through the break don't get a lunch break.
I think in terms of the amendment on the screen, the only change would be requests that staff review the action plan. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's because it's the document is referred to as the Thames-Coromandel Play Active Recreation. I wonder if it's worth putting in there review
Chief
section
Executive.
6.
Can
Action
we change staff to chief executive?
Yeah.
Chief Executive, sorry, yeah, agree.
We've still got work to do, councillor Gottlieb. We've still got a job to do, and we've got a sport and active recreation sport plan that we've got to deal with one way or another.
I would actually
We can't
take
just
on
go
board
up-
councillor Gottlieb's concerns, your worship, just so that we can get a clear steer from governance. I myself believe that having lost the motion, the first motion, there's nothing to stop a follow-on motion
Correct.
taking place, which is what's happened. But just to relay councillor Gottlieb's fears, understanding orders, can you please clarify governance?
That is correct, councillor Morrissey. So we did put a motion forward that was lost. And now another motion has been put forward in regards to this report.
And that complies with standing orders.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. So mover and a seconder, can you just remind me again, please? Councillor Sinclair, councillor Grant, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Against? 1, 2. That motion's carried. Thank you. All right. So it's 12:15. Can I just ask, do we still have our chief executive, or has she gone to other? She's an apology. All right. Okay. We now really need to make a decision about what we try and tackle. We are behind schedule. Try and tackle before we take a lunch break. We've got staff here who impatiently waiting. Can I get some guidance as to, in terms of, have you guys got the run sheet in front of you? Who do we need to prioritise? Who's got other things to do that they need to?
Potentially, could we get 2.5 done?
Which one?
2.5, that seemed a pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward procedural. Yeah, Scott. There's a heck of a lot we can do. Okay, so we're going to go to 2.5. Donna, do you want to talk to this, please?
Thank you, Mayor Len. It's over. So I'll take the report as read, and I know that you would have all read it in great detail so that you'll fully understand the decisions that you're making today in regards to this report. We have, the assurance that we have is obviously with the Shareholders Council. They spend a lot of time on this and providing us with the recommendations. So we can be assured through that. Probably the only thing that I would just bring your attention to is the changes to the foundation policies. Whilst the increase for the covenant up to 350% might seem scary, the disadvantages which I've listed in the paper on page 104 also has some mitigating factors in there that kind of softens, I guess, those disadvantages, although that some of them might not be quite palatable. But the likelihood of a council defaulting and then having to come back, and then the shareholding councils or guarantors to be accountable for that is very, very low risk at this point. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, I've got my guide on. I suppose one thing that makes me feel a little weak with all these Congos and other organisations that always get a tick and 3% on. We look at page 101 and see what the payment is. I just recently in Auckland, we have Trust, which does electricity. And the people who were on it were seeking to be elected again, and we all got $350 each paid into our bank accounts. And someone then said, well, what the hell are they doing there? They have very few meetings, and they get, what do they get paid? They get 60,000 each for a small number of meetings. And if you're on the board, you get an extra 100,000 as well. And we just keep dishing out money all the time to these things. And I really would like to, I just shake my head at all this stuff that goes on. We're bound to do it. But honestly, the people, I won't name names, but I know people on whole lots of these organisations earning $1.5 million a year on different groups they belong to. And it just makes me shake my head. Anyhow, that's my 2 pence worth. We're stuck under legislation with it, but that's my concern.
Thank you.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Move on. Second it. Terry, do you have a quick comment?
I have a
Don't
comment,
spend
yes,
any time on
absolutely, through the chair. Mine's around the election of company directors. We're a shareholder in this company, aren't we?
Mm.
What's the possibilities of getting us onto a directorship here? How does that work? Is it somebody nominated and they get stand before the board? How does it work? Because when we go into the Three Waters funding, that'll be very important. This agency funding a lot of those projects. It'd be great to have a seat at the table.
For a CCO like this, we don't have the directors are independent. We don't have, there are no council representatives on the actual board.
No count. So okay.
It depends on the constitution of the entity, as well as to what the makeup of the directorship will be on that board.
So election nominating local authorities to the shareholders council, we nominate somebody.
To the shareholders council, or you're talking about the shareholders council or the LGFA board? They're two completely different things.
Right, the shareholders council.
Okay. Yep. So you can put
Right.
any
Have we had
shareholder
any
can put a
representation ever on
nomination
that?
forward. So our representative has historically been Western Bay of Plenty.
Yes.
Kamaran Pimarau, he has been our representative.
Right. But our council's never voted somebody that we've had on there other than.
We haven't had nobody around our council table has put their hand up to be on the shareholding council.
Okay. Think it's a good or bad thing?
No comment. I mean, it's about the skills, whether the people have the skill, like you would, I mean, you can put a nomination through. It's whether they have the skills to be able to support that and provide the information that's needed to the rest of the shareholders and guarantors to be able to make the decisions.
Thanks, Terry. Perhaps you could have a chat with Donna afterwards if you got more questions. Yeah. Okay. So we've got. Sorry, just remind me again. We've got mover and a seconder. Okay. And Martin and all those in favour. Those against. Thank you. Thanks, Donna. I'm just wondering, Sian, is this going to be controversial? Let's have a crack at it. All right. Derek, you're in charge. I need a bathroom break. Sorry. Okay.
Welcome. Catherine. Welcome, Catherine and Sean.
Hold up.
This will be easy. Just roll through it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Kia ora, elected members. The item that is up on the agenda at the moment relates to making a new parking bylaw. A couple of months ago, the council agreed that we, as a result of a review of the current bylaw, that we would work towards creating a new one, primarily to have the structure and format of the bylaw better aligned with good legislation drafting practices, and also the way that the land transport legislation operates when it comes to councils setting aside areas for parking. So what we consulted on that proposal to do a new bylaw. At the same time, we also consulted on a small number of changes or new individual parking locations, just a very, very small number scattered around the district. As a result of the feedback we got on the consultation, which was not a large number of people who provided feedback, I have separated out the two aspects of the bylaw and the parking locations into two separate reports. So the first one you've got is just about the bylaw, just the legal instrument that is the bylaw. And then you have a second report, the subsequent item on the agenda, which deals with making of resolutions under that bylaw, which is about the individual parking spaces. So firstly, if we could deal with the first report, which is just on the bylaw, as I said, very small number of people responded to the consultation. For those who did comment on the bylaw itself, largely people were supportive of what the bylaw was proposing to do and the framework that it was going to set out. The substantive comments related to the proposal to charge for parking in some parts of the district. The bylaw enables the council to do that. It doesn't say in itself where those charges will apply, nor how much those charges are. Those are matters that are dealt with in the second report, which is about the resolutions under the bylaw and the amounts of the fees this council actually does in its schedule of fees and charges, which is through the long-term plan or the annual plan process. Those are the only substantive matters that were raised in the consultation. As to the bylaw itself, nobody raised any concerns in their feedback about the drafting of the bylaw or how it's structured. So staff are recommending that the council makes the bylaw in the attachment to the report.
So I hear you. I know Martin's asking a question. Any more points you want to state before we move on to questions?
Not on the bylaw itself.
So we'll do the
not
bylaw first then. Okay, Martin, is that about that?
Yeah.
Yes, I would just like to move that we adopt the bylaw, given what we've just heard from staff.
Okay. There's movers and seconders coming everywhere. Martin and Dally. Any comments as we move to this first stage? Okay, well, I put it to the meeting. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
That's a tick. Next one.
Oh, there are a few other resolutions
Yeah.
in the report. So again, asking for a couple of delegations. The first is to His Worship the Mayor. There is a signature block at the bottom of the bylaw for a representative of the governing body to sign to indicate the bylaw has been made.
Right.
There are also some editorial changes that will need to be made to the explanatory notes in the bylaw as part of its publication process.
Yes.
And the report recommends that those be delegated to the Chief Executive.
Yes.
So if we could just ensure that all the resolutions that were proposed in the
Right.
report that those are included,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
I'm happy for my moving to be
To include those.
points one to 8.
1 to
or
8.
Omnipotent.
Happy with that, Sean? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Righto. All those in favour? Passed. 2.7. Who's doing?
Yes, that's also mine. So now that the council has a new parking bylaw.
Yep.
The framework in the bylaw enables the council to use a process of making resolutions, your normal decision-making process, to specify individual locations around the district where parking restrictions will be applied. As part of the consultation on the proposed new bylaw, the council consulted or at least informed the members of our community that when the new parking bylaw is made, we would roll over all of the existing parking in the district that was made under the previous bylaw that's now just been replaced. So this is what this report does, is it provides recommendations to re-record all of the existing locations in the district.
Yep.
In a manner that fits with the structure of the new parking bylaw. In addition, the small number of new or changed parking locations that were also consulted on at the same time. We received feedback on those, and most of the feedback related to the proposals for boat trailer parking.
Yes.
The proposal to turn those into zones. And so that feedback has been analysed in the report for you. I also just wanted to highlight to members that in doing my final checks before the meeting today, I discovered an error in attachment J, which perhaps ironically, given the comments I made on the first report, relates to places where fees are charged. So there are 3 locations that somehow in my preparation of the attachments did not copy over. I have supplied governance with a new version of attachment J that when we get to the point of doing the resolutions, I would ask through the chair if we could work with governance to ensure that the new version is put in there. These 3 locations are ones that are already existing.
We can address that now. We can
Okay.
share that and just show the people what the changes were. I hear you, Rika, and I've got you locked and loaded.
So on the screen, I'm sorry, Councillor Gottlieb, I'm not sure what page it is. In the bottom half of the screen, the 3 items there, Coromandel, Tacoma Road, Hot Water Beach, Pie Place, Tairua, Wharf Road, Tui Terrace, Petley Parade. Somehow those didn't copy and paste across.
Right. So they're now
So
included.
they should be included. Yes. So Tacoma Road, just in case people are not sure, that's the Sugarloaf Wharf. Pie Place is the road on the other side, on the space on the other side of the road.
Right.
The Tairua locations are the new boat trailer parking zone that was consulted on.
Thank you, Sian. We all understand that. They've just added to the agenda.
So just a quick question, Pie Place in Hot Water Beach, that's existing.
Correct.
That just wasn't.
Correct. It just, these were all there.
Yeah.
Somehow, when I copied it into the Word document, I'm not sure why those 3 disappeared into the internet. I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to go to Martin now. Martin, you want to? Excuse me. It's all right. Martin.
Aye. So we heard from someone from Public Forum about how they were told this is the right time to do something, and then they were told, well, actually, no, it's not. Were you party to hear that, and do you have any comment on that?
Let's let
I think Rika's going to speak.
Rika.
Sorry, that's why I did have my hand up. Thank you for bringing it up. Just with regards to Campbell Street in Whitianga, I know that that is something that has been brought to the community board before, and Linda has been asked to wait until the parking bylaw is being reviewed, and I wondered whether this would be the time. I certainly would be happy to propose being consistent with our main street 120 parking just on that first block in Campbell Street.
It's the petrol station corner.
Yes, just to be, absolutely clear. But how would we progress that at this stage?
So Sian, can you answer that?
Yes. So as it was mentioned, and yes, I was present for the public forum, Councillor Audley, so I did hear. So yes, that was not one of the specific changes that was consulted on. And so strictly speaking, in the way that consultation processes work, it is outside the scope of this specific decision and this specific report. It's not outside the scope of what the council can actually do. So if the council would like to consider the request that that has come from the member of the public, as the councillor mentioned, it has been to the Mercury Bay Community Board in the past, where I understand from the records that I have been able to find that the request was declined. And there are no further records that I could find about the request subsequently being made until now, but that's fine. The request has been made. Elected members are free to consider that request. Staff would need some time to ensure that we have the locations correct, etc. So whether you would want to direct staff to have a look at that today or come back at a later date.
I think come back, but I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think that there's a pathway for this discussion.
Yeah, I wonder whether it's something that we could look at and put a resolution.
I don't think
over
it's
lunch?
I think it's outside what we're doing today. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Gary. Yeah, just let Sean answer.
It's outside the scope of the decisions on the parking bylaw and the resolutions today, but that doesn't, it's not outside the scope of what the council can do.
Yeah.
So the council can certainly look at it and have a discussion and direct staff accordingly.
Gary.
Penny, if you can guess what I'm going to raise. Very issue that the lady raised this morning, Linda Bird. It seems a no-brainer. I think we need to put the resolution today and get it dealt with. And I see a nod from
Mr. Chair.
row, so
Well, hold a sec, Gary. You're just asking a question to put this concern that that was raised today in public forum. But what we're feeling is that this can be, a resolution can be dealt with, then your concern can be passed on to the council to look at and followed up on, which it hasn't in the past.
Shall I make a resolution? Is that what where we're at?
that's what we require.
Okay.
Hey, hold a sec. We're just going to ask gentleman over the back, Brian.
Mr. Chair, can I just please check? I was of the impression staff have pre-prepared something. Is that sitting with you, Ari or Sean?
Through the chair, I do have a recommendation suggested by the staff.
So we are ready if the council wants to propose that.
Would we do it outside this?
Now it can be done as part of this. You've made a bylaw, so the bylaw allows for a process of passing resolutions.
Yeah.
And so, given we've heard that request,
Can we have this up on the board? Okay, let's have this up on the screen, guys. You can have a look at it.
Just while we're getting that up on the screen, it's really impressive that staff have done this. It's so good. But I'd just like to speak a little bit of caution. The lady this morning, Linda, she was very impassioned and obviously quite frustrated in her how she spoke. But just heard a minute ago that this has been declined by the Mercury Bay Community Board on a previous occasion. And before we go any further, I'd just like to hear from the councillor who's got her hand up what the situation actually is.
Yeah, so from memory, it was declined around the time we were doing the Main Street upgrade and parking, and we were losing a couple of car parks off the main street, and parking was just a really hot topic. And also it wasn't, we had to wait for the bylaw to be reviewed, so it wasn't within the time frame. So there were two things that sort of hamstrung it.
I'm satisfied.
Are you happy?
Yeah, okay, let's move on. So there is it on the board. Yeah, hold a sec.
Just through the chair, we would include this as recommendation 15 if
15,
accepted.
that's right. We will need to find where it's going to fit in.
And I just through the chair, these GPS coordinates are not correct. They have been approximated. So this would need a little bit more work to ensure, and you'll see that underneath the table, we already have on Camel Street, which will be recorded in the resolutions that are in the report in front of you, the no parking markings that are currently on that street. These three locations that are in the table are the ones that are in between those existing no parking markings. So the GPS coordinates will need to be aligned. That is a specialist task that will need to be done. So as part of this resolution, I would request that there be an additional provision to allow the chief executive, delegate to the chief executive the power to make a minor edit to those GPS locations when we've been able to verify them as accurate. But they are approximate. And I think for the purposes of the resolution, if elected members want to go ahead with it.
Has she
it'll
got
be
that
sufficient.
delegation in here to do that?
Not in relation to this resolution. That would need to be a specific one for this resolution. Yeah.
Okay, so we need it accurate, so we need to add that, and that's important. So this is going to be item number 15, is that right? We're going to do that. So just before we move on, Sian, is there any of your high-powered committee behind you got any comments? Do they want to do this? Nothing? Kate?
I think the heads are shaking.
Catherine?
So,
Nothing from you? Okay, so here we go. We'd like to go through this in stages if we can, just in blocks, so we can knock it through. So we'll start off with recommendations. You 1, 2? What do you want to do? First, on page 132, recommendations. 1, receive the resolutions to be made under the new parking bylaw report dated 02 October 2024.
Yeah, so 1 and 2.
1 and 2 together. So
That together first.
who would like to move that? We will do that. Thank you, Martin. A seconder? Yes, Delhi. All those in favour? Thank you. Well done. Now we're going to move on to resolutions 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Happy with that? Whole page. It's over here.
Yeah.
8 and 8.
Yeah.
Oh, then we'll do the whole lot after that. Yeah. Resolution 3 till 8. You all comfortable with those? Mover? Yes, thank you, Peter. Yes, thank you, John. All in favour? Well done. Okay, now we're going to go from 9 to 15. And have we got the new wording in there with the chief executives?
Yes, through the chair we have, and just a reminder about attachment I and the change that was made. J, sorry.
J, yeah.
Thank you.
You're happy to move, John, and second, Delhi? Okay, here we go.
Question.
Quick question?
So we've added a resolution 15.
Yes, we
right?
have.
And so we've also added something to resolution 14 about giving the power to the chief, delegating the chief executive to make minor changes to that table. Because that was shown.
Correct. We'll bring it up on screen.
Okay. Just as long as it was captured, I'm happy.
Yeah. Delegates the chief executive the powers to make the necessary minor formatting and grammatical changes to the bylaw. To this resolution.
So resolution number 4, as it stands, it gives the chief executive delegation to, delegates the following powers. No, I retract that. I was wrong.
To
Grammatical
resolution 15,
changes.
so the top.
To resolution 15.
Campbell Streets.
apologies. Through the chair, my recommendation is that this delegation should be very specific to resolution 15.
Yeah.
As the councillor has pointed out, you've already made the resolutions making a whole lot of broader delegations. This one is solely for the purpose of correcting the GPS coordinates.
Yes.
The other aspects of the resolution would not change. It's only in relation to the GPS coordinates. So my recommendation would be that it's a very specific delegation related to the GPS coordinates in the resolution.
Thank you. So here we go, guys. Here comes the words.
I do like that 14 decimal places is considered only approximate.
Yeah. Yeah, they're usually a bit shorter. Oh.
Okay, we're there. So here we go. Number 16. Delegates the chief executive the powers to make the necessary changes to the GPS coordinates and resolution 15. Happy? Happy? Okay, we had a mover for that. I think it was John and you, is it? Yeah, Robin. Okay. Robin, that lady over there. Well done. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Done. Thank you. Okay, is that lunchtime? 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 Back at 1:20? Oh, you're pushing it.